we're going to move on to a mycofloristic project from Europe that worked, and this is Henning Knudsen telling us about it.
Hello, I'm Henning Knudsen from University of Copenhagen, the Natural History Museum of Denmark, and I work as a curator of fungi. I'm very pleased to be here today because we have made this project for very many years, but it's difficult if you know a fungi from one region and you don't know them from the other region. You don't know what's special and what's not special. And so we'll be very interested in seeing a North American project coming through also. Tom had an excellent overview of what you would like to do, and I really felt that what I've been doing is not only old-fashioned, but the only advantage it has is that it exists, actually. So, yeah. A small political thing. We have heard it several times today. We heard from Canada they were cutting down some project, and what was cut away was the fungi. They only had money for the plants and the fungi. We heard from Barbara just now that she was the only representative. And you know this. It goes on, and it's always the same. So why you should make microflora is also one of the reasons is that fungi are considered as second-class organisms in the kingdom of nature. And if you don't have a heavy book to give to the administrators and so on, they will just ignore you. We are ignored over and over again, and we saw it just today, new examples. So one of my main reasons for doing this work, which has been very long, is that now we have it and we can show it and it has an impact. These fungi, these fantasilions of fungi that exist in our heads, they are now also here in the book on paper, 3,000. They are described. They are described how you recognize them from the other ones. They have a distribution. They have data from 5 national herbaria, not precise, but it's underlying, and so on. So if your administrators ignore this, they have a problem, not you. So that's really the reason for that you should just start it, your mycoflora. It really has an impact because it's not just something that we talk about, and there's a lot of them out there, and so on and so forth. They exist. So, back to the start, and the start here is really so historical that I'm ashamed. But we started in 1976, and we were using a typewriter, and we were 40 people, 40 authors, and we typed the letters and copied it in some way I don't remember. Sent it out to them and waited for 1 or 2 months, and then the answers got back, and we summarized it and sent it back, and so on and so forth. So it took quite a lot of years to get this started. But in 1992, we had the first of 3 volumes covering the agarics, and not a very good one. I'll come back to that, but anyway, it was there. And in 1997, we had the Aphilophorales, the Gastromycetes, and the heteros, and in 2000, finally, the Ascomycetes. So we covered about 4,000 species from Northern Europe. Then in 2006, we decided, or I had decided all the time, but that the 1992 agarics was not good enough. There were many species lacking, and we decided to make a new edition. And to separate them, we called it Fungal Nordica. And it's only including, it was only including the agarics. It was sold out in 3 years, and just for the last 4 months, I've been doing a new edition. Actually, I brought it here because I've still missed the page references, but it will come out in August, and it will cover now 3,000 species, including not only agarics and boletes, but also cephaloids, clavarioids, and gastroids, because we're using an updated phylogeny and including everything. So that's the short history of our project. When we started, we wanted it to make it reliable, and reliable means that when you use it, you come to a result, and the result is almost correct. Comprehensive, we didn't know what it meant in those days, but it should be large at least. It should not be restricted to 1,000 or anything, just large, and no limits. As long as people wanted to make species, they were welcome. Affordable, because we were talking about paper, books on paper, and they should be able to buy them and have them, everyone, because it was made by the Nordic mycologists. They contributed, and it was their work that we sold, and so they should have the benefit of being able to buy the book very cheap. Those who contributed were, as a profit, they had 3 copies. That was no matter if you contributed 1 species or 300 species. It was a very democratic model, but it works. So. And finally, easy to use, and it's again a little bit elastic, but we didn't want to use too scientific vocabulary. So we split it in 2. The macro terms are everyday language. We don't use pileus, we use a cap. We don't use a stipe, we use a stem, and so on. So you should not scare people by the vocabulary when they open the book. On the other hand, if you go to microcharacters, it was necessary to use more specialized things. So we used everyday scientific terms for the microcharacters. Is it changing? Oh, down, sorry. Okay. So what we were doing, it all started as a regular forays between the Nordic countries, you see here, every 2nd year. And on the 3rd of these, we agreed that we should make this microflora. And as a small note, we call it a funga, not a mycoflora. You don't say a zooflora, do you? So we use funga along with flora and faunas because we don't want to be suppressed by the botanist anymore. So we started out, and the idea was that we should cover the Nordic countries totally. All the included genera should be covered in full, and this has been the case here. But at the same time, it's working very well in the larger part of Northern Europe. And we invited what we call neighboring countries, from Ireland in the west to Russia in the east, to participate. They could propose species they wanted to have included, so that we could open up a little bit outside the Nordic countries. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but if we take this area and superimpose on North America, practically all of it is north of your border towards Canada. Everything is in Canada except southern Germany, which comes into the United States. So you cannot directly compare this area to the United States because it's much warmer here, as we have seen. So. Yeah, Alaska, that's right. The taxa we have included in Fungal Nordica are seen here. As I told you, we have enlarged the concept to be phylogenetic. The wonderful results that we've seen over the last 3-4 years have been included. So now you don't just have, say, 10 genera of agarics in some family, and you don't understand how they suddenly popped up. They came from something, and they will go on further. And now, with all these new hymenophore types included, we have, in the Agaricales, still by far the biggest group, of course. We have included corticioid fungi, clavarioid fungi, of course, truffles, and all the puffballs. They're included in the family Agaricaceae, but very many of the families have now representatives that do not have gills. This was a decision I took, and it was not met with approval by all, but in fact, one of my colleagues resigned from the project because it is, yeah. Okay, so, but there's no way around this. I mean, we have to do it this way, and I'll explain to you later. It has some advantages. But these are the taxa that you'll miss something here. Of course, Canthoralalis, Gomphalis, and so on. We didn't have time. We didn't have authors for everything. So, but next time we'll make it bigger. Seen in another way, we have included, well, yeah, as you see here, I didn't have time to count the number of species, but we are above 3,000, and then we have varieties and forms and so on. So it's covering quite well. Yeah, and another way to look at it, we have now 380 species of Cortinaris included. It's a very important genus, as you know, and I was amazed that they could scrape so many species together, but actually they tell me that this is only the beginning, and there will be more to come, and just in the 3 years we have, especially there's a Finnish group that had added 20 new species, and so.
You guys have kept strictly to the general complex in the groups of species. There are a lot more species that are missing at the moment.
Yeah.
Because I'm deeply familiar with something. So you have just dealt with what I'm trying to say, 380, but in many cases you're just dealing with the overall concept.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll come back to how we did it from the. Yeah, of course we have many, very many also monotypic genera and so on. But these are really impressive figures of the main genera. So, how did we do it? We start with from above. Agaricomycetes have 2 subclasses and make a key to the orders. It's not very easy, I can tell you. Descriptions of orders, and they are phylogenetically arranged. So we have the most primitive first, and so on. Descriptions. Then we have the key to families in the order. Description of each family, again phylogenetically arranged. Key to genera in the family, and so on. These are not phylogenetically arranged, but alphabetically arranged because we don't know that much about phylogeny, and maybe next time. Of course, the important things are the keys and descriptions of species in the genera, and most of them run with more than one species. Well, you know, a key, but in monotypic genera we have put together the description of the species and the description of the genus, because there's no reason to repeat everything. Each species is treated the same way. The first sentence is the diagnostic character, the character that you separated from other species, and it's ended with a point. And then you start again describing macroscopic characters, cap, size, color, shape, so on, gills, density, attachment, so on and so forth. So it's easy to find your way around in each description, and macroscopical character is finished with a point, and then you start the microscopical characters same way, always spores, always cystidia, very rarely basidia because they don't mean anything for identification and so on. Pileapelles is described often because it's an important character. A new dot, and then you describe the biological and ecological characters for the species, mycorrhizal, saprotrophic, growing on something, parasitic, and so on. What kind of environment, old forest, new forest, so on. Then frequency, distribution from the area, and the area is the Nordic countries, and each country is represented by its acronym. So we have 2 kinds of distributional. A general one, this occurs very common in boreal forest, and boreal forest is defined by a map we have in front of it. But anyway, we also list each of the countries where it's found. So that would be Norway, Sweden, and Finland. And it doesn't take much space, but it's very important for the amateur mycologists. We still call them amateurs, but because if they see that it's found in Sweden and Finland, but not in Norway, they will go out and find it because they should be there. So this is really generating new knowledge, and people are triggered by such things. There's something I can do on Sunday. Yeah, and after that we have the references to color pictures. And I was really saying maybe this is the last time that we do that, because now if you take any species on the internet, you get many more pictures than you can find in the books that we list. Anyway, there's still a point of listing them because they are credible illustrations. What you find on the internet is good and bad, and there's no one there to sort for you. But here the author has sorted it out, and then these are 5 good pictures of this species. Yeah, and we also have the name, which is in bold, and then we listed a number of the most important synonyms. Again, another point that should be considered, because synonyms now you take from Index Fungorum or Mycobank or any other place, but it still has some relevance because there might be sensulato names, or there might be sensulange names, which are especially important for our area, and there could be other. So these types of names are listed also for people to know. And the involved people, we have 4 kind of layers. Starts with the amateur mycologists who collect, describe, dry them, report them to the herbaria, their own herbarium, or to the national herbaria where we get them from. We have the authors who prepare a number of genera, or maybe only one. And the relation between these people is so that the authors prepare the key and they decide which species exist. We don't have any demands of sequences or anything. The author decides this one exists because I recognize it. And of course then you can say, well, we have one here also that you should include. And then the author say, no, I don't believe it, or give me the material and I will check it and so on. But the author is responsible, and his view of the species that exist is given in the book, not anybody else's. But the national coordinators, they coordinate with the mycologists in their country, and so to find out which species they have found in Norway or any other country. So they prepare a list for the authors of the species for his or hers genus, and then again the author can say, no, this is not a good species, I don't take that. And it's really never a problem. But you know, this was made in medieval times, so there was a species concept was the concept of a good author, of a good specialist in the group, and we still use that. And what we're trying to do is not a description of a specimen or a collection, it's a description of the species. We don't cover the variation, we cover the so to say, the main characters that the author thinks are the main characters. But you can find, if you include everything, you can find larger spores or smaller spores or other types of cap colors and so on, because it's kept short and as concise as possible to keep the volume down. So this might change now. Of course, with all the incredible techniques we have, we will consider if we should put other demands to people. But this is one of the most crucial points for you to decide when you're making the new microflora. Some authors would rather break an arm than publish a mistake. On the other end, you have the amateurs who are making the methodology, I believe, and you have to have these two types to get together to a product that is consistent And it's not very, always very easy, but that's the challenge you have. And if you put too high demands, you'll get no authors. And if you put them too low, it's not reliable. So this is really, I think, the most crucial point for you to decide where's the balance here. Not to make it, of course you should make it, but how should you make it? How much will you demand from your authors? Yeah, the editors bring everything together and publish it. This, just a few words of philosophy here. This was triggered by Else, who wrote to me that because this guy, I told her that this guy withdrew from the project. He didn't want to have all these different hymenophores in one family. So I told Else this, and she said, well, it's only for identification. And of course, it's true that funga is for identification, first and foremost, but it has also other purposes. I already told you one, that it exists. It shows that the fungi exist and they're important. But also, we are losing many generations of mycologists now, young mycologists, because they have, it's very difficult for them to overview fungi. They are not born with the knowledge of them. They cannot count the staminas as you can in plants. It's much easier and so on. So if we have a book that's presenting things in an easy way, it's a good tool for many students to use. That's one thing. Of course, I have my notes here. Yeah. By presenting the knowledge we have, you also present the knowledge we don't have. And as I told you, this will trigger people because they will go out and find the knowledge you don't have and supplement. And if we imagine that each of you in this room took 10 species each year in 5 years, you would have 2,500 species, and then the ball is rolling. The rest will come by itself because people say, there are always people out there, they're willing to correct you. And they will say, you miss this, and you add this, and so on. So it will get bigger and bigger, and with almost no effort. You have to fill it in, of course, but you'll get a lot of additional information when you have started things. And that's how we have built this up now over more than 35 years. You don't need 35 years with all the things that you can help you today. But anyway, when you get started, it will roll by itself. That's a really important point. Let me, if I have 2 minutes, more minutes, yeah? Just mention, no, okay, I forgot this also. This was also, I was doing this new edition here the last 4 months, and it's really boring. You have to bring together this puzzle of information from 5 countries, from 40 authors, from several papers and so on. It's a really hard job. But there were some moments of zen that were really enjoyable. There was a genus, corticoid genus called Hyphodontiella, very thin, white, boring, no characters. But Carl-Henrik Larsen showed that it belongs to Clavariaceae. Okay, but he couldn't figure out why. I looked it up in Erickson and Rivard, and it has the most beautiful loop-like clamps that you ever saw, which is a character of Clavaria, of course, and it's not found in the very many other places, if any. So this was, there were other of these. Hebeloma is next to, is sister to Hymenogaster. And they have so many characters in common that you wonder why you haven't been able to see this all the time. Loosening, perisporium, brown spores, varicose spores, so on and so forth. But then, if you go to a key with Hymenogaster, they will not mention that the spores are dextrinoid. Why should they? They compare to other truffles. They don't compare to Hebeloma. So all of these characters are not mentioned because they're not necessary in truffle. And polypores, the same. We have divided ourselves into hymenophore type in the old days. Now it's different. And they have, of course, dextranoids, but you don't even have to look. I mean, I'm sure they are dextranoid. They're also dextranoid in North Korea, and I discovered a paper by some Greek mycology of Wakefieldia, which is the 4th mycorrhizal genus in this group. So if you put them, you're forced to put them together because the phylogeneticists tell you that they are related. Then you can start thinking, and you don't have to waste so much time, because if you don't know what is related, you have to look for characters all over the system, and it's very time consuming. If you know these 10 are related, you can quite fast find the characters that are important and that will supplement this group of species, of genera. So I had several moments of zen. I have no time to tell you, but it was really the only pleasure of doing this. And rebirth of morphology is not quite out of shape because you really get to know what's important here, and then you can develop on this, and we can get much better descriptions of families and orders and so on. So as a result of, indirect result of this. Yes, I think that was what I wanted to say. Thank you.
And we do have time for questions.
One of the important things I think for us is that we're gathering molecular sequence data, and since so many of the names in North America are derived from European specimens, I'm kind of wondering how much in molecular information you might have collected for this so that we can compare.
We have collected nothing here. Yeah, we have a lot, but that's not related to the project. So, and of course, it will be very interesting for us to exchange views on this because you use our names and we use your names. And if we really do it with good reasons, we don't know. But it's one of the points where we could share views in.
How important do you think the fact that you were shooting for publishing, a paper book was in driving the project? And for the next generation, how much do you want to make online, and what's your thinking on this?
Yeah, well, after I heard Tom's wonderful project here, I'm really sorry. I don't have to start again, but I think that online is the future. There's no doubt about that. So, but still, some people will prefer this for generations still, I think, and sometimes I prefer it even myself. If you have to, how was this species and so on, you have to. So, and of course, it's quite easy to print a copy of some of the data. But ideally, I would think that if you have keys and you have descriptions, and then you have links to anything else, sequences, photographs, and so on, there would be, you could just print the keys and the descriptions as we have here. So,
the first question is actually the one I ponder the most, which is how much of a driver is having an end goal of having a book, and,
okay, that's,
and
yeah.
how much is,
yeah. When we started this, the first time it took 20 years. The second time it took 2 years for bringing this together. In 2006 we started, 2008 it was issued. So, but we had learned so much, and people knew, we were telling them, if you don't deliver in time, you can forget it, and because we have other people. And this is not, we didn't have other people for anything, but we didn't, we didn't tell you. So, no, it has really, it reached a level where people are happy to contribute, and it was not a problem at all. So we said 2 years and deliver or forget it. And so it's not, well, sometimes in the future. That was how we started. You can deliver when you have finished your key, but it was a bad idea. Scott?
So you said the next edition is coming out in August.
Yeah.
Which is next month, so it's all gone to doing the editing here.
I miss page references. Key A page. I took the first volume in the flight over here, but because it was really, well, they are stressed because they need to print it, and to get it printed, or not to print it, but to bound it properly, they have to send it to Eastern Germany, where they still keep these old techniques of good binding, so you can open it 500 times without. But it will come out in the middle of August. So.
Last question.
Okay, I mean, one of the things, I mean, 20 years ago, I decided to stop publishing hard copy. I mean, you don't get the rewards with your department and your deans and so on. And I can see that this motivation for getting hard copy. But one of the beauties of the web is that you make a mistake, someone will tell you very quickly, and you correct it.
Yeah.
And then if the name changes, it changes up throughout the day.
Instantly, yes.
I would say that if you can get a hard copy out in 2 years, you should be able to get a web copy out in 6 months. You could basically make that your next project. I would love to help you, and I'm sure EOL would be interested as well. I mean, the idea is if we could provide you the technical support, you've got the people network and the experts.
Yeah.
And then they won't get the rewards in saying, I've got another publication.
No.
But they will get thousands of people hitting it rather than, just
Yeah.
the number of companies.
Well, rather than 2,000. So yeah.